and welcome back to Scale to Exit with Alejandra Santos on another episode of Scale to Exit, where this episode is going to be with a operational professional that works with billionaire businesses. And she's coming in here today to share her strategies that you can put ahead in your business and execute accordingly, no matter how big or small your business is. But before we dive in, I want to say thank you to everybody that's coming here for the first time. And thank you for coming back to all of you Scale to Exiters. I'm excited to have you here. As always, please make sure that you share, like, comment, and subscribe to the platform of choice. If you ever want to leave me a comment, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can also write me a comment on YouTube. We're streaming in all the platforms as well. Before I go and introduce her, for everybody that's new, Scale to Exit is the podcast, the platform where we talk about how to build and scale your business for an exit. Many of the times, about 80% of the times, people think that you implement exit strategies when you take the decision of exiting your business. Unfortunately, that is not usually how it should be done, because by that time, you're probably leaving a lot of value in the table for another company like a private equity firm to come in, purchase you, and transform your business into what you could have transformed it yourself. So if you don't know me, I'm Alejandra Santos. I'm on a mission to help you bridge the gap between a business and a sellable asset. And that's exactly what I do. I do what private equity firms do, but I do it with you, the business owner, because I want you to cash out on that wealth legacy value that you can if you actually take the decision way ahead of time, years ahead of time, to really build and scale with an exit in mind. Yes, and that's why I bring a lot of guests and professionals into the platform, into the podcast, for you to hear it from them and hear it from them, and because we're all here on the same mission to really help you bridge the gap between a business and a sellable asset. As a lot of businesses out there that go for a sale don't really ever go for a sale. They're listed. Some don't even sell ever. But today's episode is going to be really fun. It's going to be with Rachel Lasser from Lasser Consulting. She is the big guns that companies call when things tend to slip away, when projects are not being completed on time. So she works with teams from mid-market to billion-dollar enterprise, and she's also here to show us why delivery beats talk every time. During this episode, we're going to dig into the biggest red flags when you scale too fast. We're going to talk about how to align global teams around the same KPIs and the leadership habits that build trust. Now, if you don't have global teams, this also applies to you. You'll also hear a super practical way to kill wasteful meetings, and how to spot the real bottlenecks, and how to choose tools that fit your stage instead of your ego. By the way, Rachel Lasser, she started her business about a year ago, and she's on track to hitting 1 million or maybe more by the end of this year. So we're very excited for her on her 1-year venture, and that's just proving how effective her strategies that she's going to share with you are, and they're applicable to no matter where you are in your business growth. So as always, please make sure that you subscribe, you like, you share, you comment to the platform of choice. We're streaming everywhere. Okay, and without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and bring her in, and I will see you on the other side. All right, I'm very happy to have you here, Rachel Lasser. Am I saying it right? Lasser.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great, perfect.
Losser.
You are the founder and the CEO of Laser Consulting, which is a transformative project management company that you emphasize in delivery, and you work with huge firms. And I'm very happy to have you here at Scale to Exit. And I know you have a very inspiring story, because you just started the company about a year ago. You decided to go on your own, and it's going amazing. So I want to dive in and ask you, what drives your passion? What drove you to really create Laser Consulting, and that drives you forward every day with your clients?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hello. So excited to be here and thank you for that lovely intro. Yeah, I started the company because I just felt like I was doing this work for the companies that I was working with. And I just felt like I know that I have something in my delivery that's a little bit unique. I worked with hordes and hordes of consultants, and anybody who's worked with a lot of consultants knows their quality level is not created equal. So yeah, I just decided this was it was the right time, and there's a huge need in the market for really strong project delivery. So yeah, we just started it and haven't looked back since. It's been a crazy year.
And I know you've been very successful. I mean, you started it 1 year ago and you've been organically growing. Um, can you tell me what do you think it's the success is coming from? Is it because of your experience? Is it because of your contacts? What do you think is the root base of that rapid success?
Gosh, good question. I would say my contacts helped me get my foot in the door, and then my strong delivery helps us stay in the door, if that makes sense. But I
Yeah,
just feel like the key, really, ultimately, to getting more work, especially in this field of consulting, is to just do really good work.
yeah, correct. Just stand out with like the delivery framework. So I am interested to know what are some red flags that you see in companies that are trying to scale too fast without having a great delivery framework in place?
Wow. Yeah, scaling too fast. I would say um, the number one thing is not having a good compass for what good looks like, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a controls in place or something in place to make sure that things are being delivered to your desired quality level. And honestly, that's a lot on you as a leader to make sure that you put those kind of checkpoints in place. Because, yeah, I've definitely seen that kind of growth where things just kind of get out of hand and people go off and are doing what they think is best, right? But yeah, so that's probably the biggest red flag is
Not having the right
just
controls in place.
yes, 100%.
And do you think that this is I'm very it's interesting for me to hear that because big companies like the ones that you work with are over like what 30 million in revenue something.
Yeah, yeah. Our clients vary, but like we have several clients right now that range in the 600 million a year revenue to up to a billion. So we have a range.
Yeah, so it's interesting for me to hear that even 600 million to that range of revenue don't really have the right checkpoints in place, which is the same kind of problem we have on the smaller side, on the smaller scale businesses. So, what do you think happens from that growth? Like, why is this problem not solved as the company continues to grow?
Yeah, I mean, even at that big company, I actually see two things. At big companies, I see sometimes there's too many checkpoints and it's the wrong thing and they don't add value, or the other end of the spectrum, which is there's just not enough. And so I do think finding that balance is challenging. And I do think it starts at the top. If the leaders of the company are not setting a precedence for a certain excellence or driving that accountability, it's not it's not going to naturally happen.
Wow. So I find it fascinating because I work with businesses. I'm on the smaller side, right? All the way to 30 million. That's my cup of tea. And I find the same problems as you are dealing with. So I find it fascinating. And the audience here, obviously, it's a little bit smaller as well. In when you are leading international teams or like when you're doing like cross-functional teams, how do you make sure that everybody keeps is are aligned and scaling together to meet a certain KPI?
Wow. Yeah, and I do, just to touch on what you said, I do feel like it's applicable almost at all levels of business. It's just like, is it a big problem or is it a small problem? You know what I mean? um, in terms of managing KPIs and leading global teams, I think if you don't have a ton of experience with this, it can feel a lot like I've said this before, I'm repeating myself. And I would say the number one thing with the communication is, I'm always thinking about how can I deliver a message in a lot of different channels where people are hearing the same thing over and over again to where the messaging is very consistent. So a lot of, especially like the bigger the team gets, the more the repetition and the accountability and all those checkpoints become so important.
So basically, you're saying you're communicating, because this is something that I also find fascinating. It's like whatever I tell you, you receive it a certain way, and whatever you tell me, I receive it a certain way. So you have to communicate that same thing in different dialects, I would say, even if everybody's talking English. I'm saying dialects in the way people receive things for different departments. That sounds like intense leadership work.
Yes, yes, and lots of like communication planning. So if we're rolling out something really, really big, we might have like some pre-question sessions where we're going to deliver the same message. Then we might put it in a newsletter. We might put it on the kind of company intranet or like SharePoint or whatever. We might still send an email blast, so we're putting this out so many different channels that like, we're kind of seeing the same message
Over and over again
over and over again.
until it's learned and understood. So when you're dealing with so many much cross-functional departments, how do you deal with resistance from moving forward or transforming? Because transformations, personal and business wise, cause a lot of resistance internally. How do you align that level of resistance among all these departments?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody tells you they have the perfect answer, they're probably full of it because it's a challenge and it's challenging, it's different every
Right.
time. I would say the number one thing is that people want to feel heard. And sometimes a complaint, like leaders will dismiss the complaint as, hey, my team's resistant to change. Hey, like they don't want to be a part of the solution. And what I kind of challenge leaders to always think about is like, is there a valid point underneath the complaint? And what could possibly be like the driver for someone? And I'm always trying to tie whatever change back to, okay, why is this good for the company? Why is this good for the team? Why is it good for the employees? And so I'm always trying to tie it back to, how this could be a good thing for the team, even if it's not good right now. It might be a foundational piece for something later.
And how do you translate that good for them to them in order for them to move from the resistance point?
Yeah, I mean, I deal a lot just by happenstance with like IT teams, so I'll just give kind of an example in that arena. But I might say, hey, like this all feels really confusing, really challenging right now. We're kind of taking along during the process where things aren't perfect, but ultimately your job's going to be easier. Like we're putting XYZ in place and it's going to be a journey to get there, but that end result is going to be easier than it is right now. And it's going to be better for us as leaders because we're going to have more visibility. So it doesn't feel like it right now, but this is a win.
Got it. So basically, you're saying, I'm going to make your job easier, or there's going to be something value added to what you're doing that you're gonna love to be on board, because you're gonna see that's gonna even maybe not make more money, but maybe spend less time on the one's task, right?
Yeah, I think a mistake a lot of leaders make is thinking that they can not address the resistance and that it's just going to go away. And it's really not. It's not going to. So, your best bet is to have your managers go and have one-off conversations and try to get to the bottom of what's going on or what like the root of someone's concern is, and just sit with your team and give them a chance to, I'll say, express their concerns. I usually try to set some like rules around those conversations so that it's not just like a big complaining session, but yeah, try to try to get to the root of what someone's concerns are and
I
just kind of know, yeah.
no, I love that what you just said. So adequate.
Yeah. Yeah, and just kind of know that for a lot of people change is hard and so you just need to like help them in the process. And I think just one other thing I'll add is I see a lot of leaders say, hey, we're going to do XYZ, and they don't deliver. And that really breaks trust. So I would say a big thing in those communications is that your say do ratio has to be really good. So if you say, we're going to give you a monthly update, we're going to have a session, like make sure you deliver on those promises because that's going to build the trust between everybody going through the change.
I love because everything that you're saying, because I'm, resonating it with my audience and with the people that I work with, right? Even though they're smaller, it does start with the leader themselves, because they have to be not only consistent to the business but also consistent in accountability with the team, and show that kind of level of leadership all along the way until they grow into this multi-million dollar business. It just goes from like the beginning. It starts with you, all of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really cool. So have you been in a position where you came in and you started a project, and they wanted to get this, executed with you, and then you start looking that this team is not aligned, and then this one is waiting for that one, and then the other one's coming here, and then you have to address all of those little bottlenecks in order to move forward. So you're spending more of your time, right? The scope was this, and now the scope is this plus that. Have you been in those? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're speaking my language. There's Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, I've been brought in a lot of times for like project SOS. So a lot of the times I hadn't been involved in the original scoping activities, and I'm coming in at sort of like a critical moment of crisis. And those are, I think those are the most fun. But you just need to go back to sort of your core principles of like, what is the mission? What are the things that need to happen? Like, do I have one source of truth for all the work that needs to get done? And is like everyone basically, is everyone singing the same song? Do they have the same understanding? If not, like that's the first thing you got to do. You just got to have that meeting where you bring everyone together and say, hey, this has gotten out of hand. Let's bring ourselves back. Let's bring it back to our main mission, our main goal. What are we doing now? What are we doing later? How are we getting there?
Okay. So I bet the values also play a big place into this, right? When it comes to aligning everybody, like going back to the values of the company.
100%. The values of the company, the intent of the project, and what the goals of that are, and yeah, just bringing everybody back together to like plow forward, on this with the same mission.
How long does that take, like usually, to just align the different departments into moving forward into a project?
Oh gosh, I mean,
A long
that
time.
could be one conversation and everybody's in, or that could be a series of conversation that spans a month. I
Do
mean,
you, do you
there's
have do you have to fire people? Do you have to let go of people? If anything?
sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely, I'm always sensitive to those things because, these are people's lives we're playing with, right? But at the end of the day, if someone's not conducive to the project goals or doesn't have the right attitude to be a part of a project, the clients I work with have the option to sort of self sabotage and allow it to keep happening or make the move they need to and remove that individual.
And sometimes what I see too is that probably the person is not really aligned with their skill set, and so maybe they started doing that one particular job at a level of growth, and then they outgrew the job and the skill set grew, and they're still stuck in that same role. Do you deal with those situations too, where you're like, you give, yeah,
All the time, especially on some of these technology projects where we're implementing a new technology and you have a lot of legacy people that have always done it a certain way in an older system, right? And as an organization, you really only have two options. You either have to invest in upskilling your individuals, or you need to, seek individuals that have those skills.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. And I see it a lot as well with my clients when they're like hitting certain, revenue milestones. I can see that the team that they started with doesn't deliver because the company obviously requires a different kind of skill set, but the want and the heart to keep them there going, and how can you tell them, okay, well, you're gonna have to hire new people, but that's basically what it is. Like the company, I always say the company has its own heart, and the owner and the leadership has its own heart, and whatever the
Yes.
company, right, requires is going to require from the people. I don't know, that's how I see it.
I totally agree. And even in my own business, I've had to have difficult conversations with my team and say, hey, Like, we get along great. We have such a fun work environment. Like, I absolutely adore my team, but at the same time, like, I have no problem pulling somebody aside and saying, "Hey, I've asked for this twice, and we're in a growing company where I can't afford to have to follow up with you more than once. So,
Yeah.
and even that I don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
So, I have no problem being able to pull someone aside and have that conversation. And I know for a lot of people that confrontation is scary, but it's key. Like, you can't grow and scale unless you're willing to do those things.
So I'm interested to know your personal development because not a lot of people have that attitude. And not a lot of business owners have that attitude. So tell me about your personal development.
My personal development, oh gosh, I mean, um, and maybe it's just having been in the project management space my whole career. I think project management is a really fun profession and kind of unique in the sense that, even starting out my career as a person just out of school, I'm project managing the group, lots of different skill levels, age ranges, and in the like sort of org structure, no one reports to me directly. So a lot of project management is just leading through influence and being able to kind of win people over. And so, yeah, I guess early on in my career, I was like, I gotta just suck it up and go tell this engineer, you gotta get me some drawings today. You're supposed to have it done a week ago. Let's go. So, yeah, I think like anything in leadership, I think it's a muscle that you can build over time.
That you can build over time. Yeah, I love that you said that. So you grab, yeah, when you're coming out of college and you just dive into the project management field with engineers out of all the fields you were
Yes.
talking to engineers,
Yeah.
you definitely grew a pair, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my early jobs was in automotive, and I would say that industry sure does um, get any shyness out of you. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good experience to have in the automotive industry.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, overall, how do you balance the agility with the structure when a company is growing?
Wow, that's such a thoughtful question. Agility and growing and structure. Um, I would say there is a balance of experimentation and figuring things out, and then having to, like you're saying, have that structure in place. And I would just give yourself a self imposed timeline with which to figure something out. So, and also strategically, where does it make sense to invest time and be sort of nimble, and where do you actually need the structure? So, as an example, if I'm taking on new social media marketing tactics and I'm founder led sales, like, it's totally fine if I'm experimenting and doing things or whatever. But in another area of our business, which is in client delivery, like, there's no room for things to still be figured out, if that makes sense. Like, that's something that we need to deliver. We need to deliver it a certain way every time. And so I'm picking and choosing where I'm like forcing the structure versus where I'm okay with things being a little bit less defined for now.
Yes, for now. Yeah, I ask you this question because a lot of venture funded startups in the tech world, they're growing fast, and these are kind of the problems that we deal with. Like, how do we combine, both? Where do we go? Sometimes we don't even have the structure. And sometimes everything just is very fluid, but not
Right.
very, but there's no rigidness anywhere. So it's interesting to see, even with venture funded startups, like that's a big thing because they don't have the level of leadership, like you said, that's they should have in the growth phase. I also see that founders have like the vision, but not the execution. But where do you think these people fall short?
Yeah. I mean, definitely your visionary leader and your operations leader are like two kind of different personalities. And where I think leaders fall short is they're afraid to hire for their weaknesses, or they can make hires that are ego driven sometimes, and that's kind of you're you want to surround yourself with people that are better than you in certain areas and not be concerned about it. Like just be secure in your position as the leader and bring in talent that is going to uphold the standards that you put in place and are able to sort of complement your skills.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I love that you said a visionary leader is different than the operating leader because it's very true. I've been also in with clients that are all male, all, and I'm the only woman. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely not an ego hire because I'm definitely a woman here. I may be a diversity hire. I don't know.
No, I totally, yes. I know what you mean. Sometimes I come in and I'm like, boy, did you need a woman's touch in here.
Yes. We make everything better.
Yes, for sure.
So no, I love that you said that. And most of the times it's true. People don't really hire to complement their skill set, but to make themselves better, or like a boys club, or like or like a women's club too. Women are guilty too of just hiring all women, right? Because men do it, so we want to do it too.
Yes.
But I feel like I'm going to this because the leadership is such an important aspect of a company, and people overlook at this. And you're dealing with 600 million to billion-dollar businesses, and it's the same problems that we see all across the board. So how can we start from like a small business changing this narrative in businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing when it comes to leadership, which is kind of crazy to me that we sometimes forget, but we do, but in our day to day, kind of when we operate and things get going and you get kind of comfortable where you are, I think it's important to remember that you are the leader and it's on you to create that structure, make those changes. And if, I see it all the time, like there's a meeting that you join and it's not a meeting that adds any value. Like it's on you as the leader to say, guys, why are we here? What are we doing here? Why are we having this meeting for the fourth time and nothing's happening? Like it's on you to be that person to like push forward. And just to kind of go back a little bit to what you were saying about structure versus experimentation. I think even if you are a really nimble kind of startup type mentality, you still need some structure
Mhm,
to especially receive feedback and continuously keep the conversation about how you're working
mhm.
in play, because how you're working is just as important as the work itself, especially in those kind of unstructured environments.
I agree with you 100%. And you definitely touch on a few good points. Like, yes, the structure piece is important. I feel at all levels, honestly, because even though like the clients that I work with are smaller, I see it, like you said, right now with the wasting time in meetings that don't really do anything, and they're not productive. But here you are having these weekly meetings for like 90 minutes that people are just listening in, but there's no really change in the processes. There's no really change in how things are being reported, or meeting deadlines, or which I see it in the revenue, right? So I'm like, okay, well, revenue is not working. Nothing here is working, right? I get the output of
Absolutely.
all of this. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
especially then. If it's not working, you got to change it.
you got to change it. Yeah. So people like, what would you tell business owners out there? Because a lot, this is, I feel like this is, everybody's guilty of this. We have enough meetings, they're not working. Like, where are the areas that they can look at in their business to see what's being a waste versus being a productivity, and how can they measure that stuff themselves?
Ooh, I mean, some quick, easy exercises you could do. I love a good start, stop, continue moment where I just sit down and I say, okay, what are the things that I've got to go? What are the things I need to start doing? What are the things I like? So that's an easy kind of quick check in you can do with yourself. Another one that I saw online that I really liked is if like a big shot got hired and took your role, what are the things that they would change. Use just kind of a thought exercise. Like if someone, total big shot, wanted to get in and make their mark, came into your position, what would they do? And then instead of bringing that person in, you just go do it. So I love that. I love that thought exercise. And then, I just kind of think about like, okay, what are just some simple ways that I can boil down like all this work that's happening into some like just kind of key areas and then report on those things. So, for example, like our company has some things split up, and we have an arm that's called operations. We have an arm that's called client delivery. We have an arm that's called partnerships. We have an arm that's called outreach, and all of those areas have their specific goals. And it's pretty easy to know at any given point how we're doing against those goals because we're setting the goals where it's like very measurable. It'll say like, okay, we're going to do this 3 times this year. Well, I can count it up. It's pretty easy to know, where I'm at. So we're kind of breaking it down those activities, and then we're making it very straightforward to measure.
Yeah. And a lot of the times people fail on the measuring piece. They don't have, um, my clients tell me, why don't can you please do KPIs for the whole business? Okay, cool. I will do all the KPIs, but it doesn't matter if I do all of them if your team doesn't meet the KPIs. It's the problem. I can sit here and write KPIs all day long and night. It's great. I love it. It's my thing. Will they meet those KPIs? And that's where I feel like the people struggle because it's looking again, right? Like why are they not meeting the KPIs? Like where is the bottleneck? How do you identify bottlenecks in businesses?
Ooh. Um, I mean, when I'm going in and I'm assessing processes or I'm looking at something, I'm looking for like how many times is someone touching something? How many levels of approval are there? Oftentimes it's also hard for leaders to sometimes accept, but sometimes they are the bottleneck. Um, so I think it's always a balance of trying to figure out like, okay, what is the process? Who has to like participate in the review? And I'm always looking for like ways to kind of change it up. So that either like there's more value up front to help with the delivery, or I just try to balance it out. So wherever the bottleneck or the pinch point is, we can try to sort of spread it out or come up with techniques to alleviate that.
You alleviate that, yeah, yeah. Most of the time, people think, "Oh, well, you just fire somebody or whatever." No, no, you don't do that at all. Like you just
No, the
alleviate
cost,
it. Yeah.
yeah, the cost of getting rid of good people is very high. So if you have someone good, just try to work through it.
Just to try to work through it 100%. So talk to me. You don't only deal with the people side. You also you and I were discussing like you create this amazing tool, right? Can you talk
Yes.
about that? Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm okay. Yes, I'd love to talk about that. Okay. So, part of what our company does, which I'm very passionate about,
I can
is
tell.
we have, so we implement work management tools. And I say it's like project management, but work management, I expand upon that because in a lot of cases, there's sort of ongoing things that are no longer considered official projects. But so when you're managing work, we implement these tools, and it gives us the ability to manage items at a task level and then roll them up into dashboards. So just to give an example of how this would play out, I'm just going to think of like a semi-traditional company. You have sales, you have marketing, you have accounting, all of those areas, the actual product, right? You have all of those different areas. And in all of those areas, there's going to be projects, there's going to be expectations, there's going to be systems. And what we do is we set up all of those tasks, and then we have the teams, work on them, and then we roll them up. So at any given time, the owner of that company or that leader has their eyes on everything that's going on. So Are there any tasks that are overdue? What teams are they sitting with? Um, you know, there's a lot of different questions that you can answer when you have the data. And I'm going to go a little bit nerdy on your listeners right now,
Yes, please
but
do.
the way that you enable that is because everybody is reporting on things in the same data structure. So this is going to sound really rudimentary, but if I go to 5 different projects and where they're tracking tasks, start date is called start date, end date is called end date. All the fields are called the same things, and having that uniformity of the data is how you end up rolling all that information up. So now, if everybody's managing things the same way, that is what enables you to be able to pull the information together and be able to look at it more holistically. But if somebody's looking at it one way and somebody else is looking at it another way, it makes it really hard. Like it's apples and oranges, and you need to be able to look at it holistically.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, that's really good. So you can see the live everything, what tasks are not being completed, where is the effect of all of this, not just where the one area, every holistically, what is the impact of that task not really moving forward, right? That's basically,
Correct,
got it.
correct. So picture a world where you're in charge of multiple projects. Let's just say you have 10 projects that you're in charge of, and you work with a lot of different teams. You, as the leader of those projects, should be able to look at what's overdue. If I'm going to meet with a certain team, let's just say, like in this example, I'm head of marketing. So we have 10 marketing projects. At any given point, if I'm going to talk to another leader in the organization, I should be able to pull up my dashboard, pull up everything that's sitting in that leader's bucket, and be able to say, hi, here's everything that's open with your team right now, and here's what's going on. So there's ways, once you have the data, there's a lot of different ways to leverage it. So you should be able to answer your common business questions with the information that you have.
Okay, and then can you see also like a tree, like a reference, like a tree diagram where it's like, okay, well, this one is depending on that one, and then because you're not, yeah, exactly. I love that.
Exactly.
I'm a nerd about all of that. I do it on my
Yes.
whiteboard. Do
Absolutely, absolutely. And then and that's where you get sort of to like a higher order of management, if that makes sense, because I'm less than focused on just the execution, because the execution, we have a handle on that. We have all the tasks, like we know what's going on. That is the having all of that in place is the foundation to be able to take it up a notch and look bigger at what is all the delivery that has to happen. Are there any places where we need to make long-term adjustments? And that's the only way that you're going to get a like much longer term sort of planning view. And so when you have a view like that, you're automatically ahead because it gives you a chance to see something like maybe 6 months out, we're going to have a problem because everything's going to hit at the same time. So I'm already looking that far ahead and saying, ooh, 6 months from now, that's going to be a problem. Let's pull some things forward and work on them earlier so we can still hit all of our dates.
Okay. Awesome. So, like in a manufacturing company, this could be really helpful because you can see, right, 7 months ahead. Okay, so maybe raw material or inventory or something is gonna hit. If we need to just put it in here, just kind of like move forward with that, and then hold here and all of that good stuff, basically, for manufacturing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say a lot of manufacturing companies use like enterprise resource planning or ERP systems.
Europe.
And even then, there's things you can do to like integrate your ERP data with your work management tool, and be able to look at, any KPIs that you're interested in, or, any goals that you have. Just get the get the data.
Yes, some ERP system that I've worked with do not give you that much really good data. They give you data, but they don't give you like what you're talking about, which is like seeing everything with all the departments and all the leaders, and then how to predict or project through the future. That I don't. Which ones have you worked with? I have not worked with that many, but I have not seen that ERPs have done that for me.
I mean, it's not doing it directly. It's very intentional from that leadership team to build out
Yeah,
what they're looking for. So
yeah,
an example of that would be a lot of companies implement like a data lake. So that means I'm pulling ERP data. I might be pulling like another common one is like a CRM. Like I might pull CRM data. I might pull data from my sales
yeah,
network,
yeah.
and so you have to create the data lake first and then report on that.
You have to clean it up and massage it and all
That
that stuff.
the activity of pulling all of that data
Yeah.
together, like that is there's whole professions that focus
Yes,
on that.
yes,
And
that is.
so
Yeah.
go
No,
ahead,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, I was saying that is a skill set. It's very.
Yes, yes. So just to give like the audience perspective of how I would play in that role, my company would manage the project and then we would bring in any partners that we know that are really good at that and then we would work together to deliver that final solution.
Yeah,
So we
like
would run it for you essentially.
like a data analyst basically, because that's basically a data analyst role, creating like a whole warehouse of data, cleaning it up, and then okay. So this work,
Absolutely.
this tool that you have, did you develop it yourself, or
No, no, we don't have any of our own tools. We're just assessing a client's needs and then recommending the best tool for the job. And you also have to consider, again, I'm gonna go nerdy for a moment, but you have to consider your tech stack is what they say. So what that means for anyone who doesn't know is I could go out and get a tool and that's all fine and dandy, but that doesn't do me any good if it doesn't play nice with everything else that I have. So if I'm a growing company and I have an ERP and I choose a work management tool that is like not ERP friendly or doesn't play nice with data, then that tool is not going to meet my requirements. I shouldn't get it.
hmm. I agree with you because I work with businesses, and you know SAP, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
everybody knows SAP. And I don't recommend it to my clients because it's too price. I just cannot, I cannot make up for the cost. Like I don't see the benefit for the cost for a business that's making $25 million in revenue. I'm sure you probably incorporate that because you're dealing with bigger revenue clients. But what I'm saying is that not every tool is fitable for every revenue level business. That's what I'm
A
saying.
100%, 100%, and that is this is like one probably the number one thing I talk to clients about that are choosing tools is you don't need to go for we do a lot of car analogies like you don't need to go for the Cadillac for the McLaren for the Lamborghini right away when you just like right now all your company needs is like a Toyota or a Honda Civic like you just need a normal daily driver, okay? You don't need the most luxurious car.
Yes, please don't get a Lamborghini. No, when you're only making $20 million in revenue, you
that's
need something.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's in the tech world we call that like requirements gathering, and it's like everyone's least favorite thing to do. Um, so yeah, collecting the requirements, even at a high level, saying we need to be able to do these few things, or a couple of check boxes, so that you can use that to compare tools is pretty key.
So you've worked with a lot of industries, right? You're industry agnostic, I imagine.
Yes, we are industry agnostic. We like to say the types of teams that we work with, more so than specific industry, because a lot of these skills are applicable across a lot
Across.
of different industries. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. So when do you think I tell my business owners this all the time, but I want to know it from you. Like when do you think is the right time for them to start developing some kind of like data warehouse, which is we just discussed, like connect all your systems together, bring the information over, and kind of like work with the tool that you are describing. When is a good time?
Um, this
Yesterday.
might be hard. This might be hard for someone to hear, but I think as soon as you have one employee other than the founder, it's time.
I love that response because that's exactly what I was going for. What would be like a tech stack that you would recommend for like smaller businesses to look for?
Um, I mean, you just need kind of your basic functions. So, I mean, like a quick setup could be like QuickBooks for time tracking and payroll, accounting stuff. You maybe want a CRM, maybe you don't, depending on where you're at, but you want to have a concrete sales process, and then a work management tool. Like those are like three,
Yeah.
that would be like three basic things. So a lot of the work management tools I like are like Smartsheet, Airtable. I'm a Hive partner, so Hive. But like we throw those. I want to caution anybody. They're gonna hear this in a podcast. They're gonna go run and look at a flashy marketing website, and they're gonna say, "Oh, that sounds great," and they're gonna buy it. And that's not what you want to do. You want to just take the pause to think about what you actually need,
Hmm.
take the little bit of extra time to make sure that this is going to be something that works for you. Maybe even want to do a little pilot so that when you're investing your time, it's going to be like towards something, not build something, abandon it, go to the next thing and lose trust with your team along the way.
But so, okay, yeah, that's true. So when you're building, when you're connecting in all these systems and working together with all of this, a lot of people don't have the tech, skill set, um, and it's okay. So, what would you recommend in that place when they get all these things and they don't even know how to work it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to think about short term and long term. So is this a short term project where someone's going to come in and build it for you and then you're going to be able to maintain it yourself? Or is this an area that's going to be an ongoing part of your business that you feel like you need to invest in which case it might make sense to either hire someone or kind of a contract on an ongoing basis
Mm.
to make sure that you're upholding those new standards that you put in place.
Yeah. And what kind of, okay, so now let's go in general speaking. Let's talk about the problems that you help people solve. Tell me all of them, not all of them, but what kind of
All of
problems
them? Oh boy.
what, what problems have you helped people solve, and what decisions does it arrive from those problems?
Sure. A common problem that we solve is just like a really aggressive timeline.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's kind of project management 101. What are the risks? How do we overcome them? That's
Mhm.
pretty basic. Another problem would just be if something's not moving forward. If someone's like trying to send in the big guns, that's me. Hi, I'm big guns.
You're big.
Um, um, and then any type of large scale business transformation. So I'll just give you like a quick example. I'm working with a client and I'm kind of off on my own managing a couple of projects. And this client has had a leader of their PMO that has since moved on to another project, and they have a couple of folks that are left there in the PMO, which I don't really participate in. And so this client was like, hey, I don't really know what's going on. I'm not really sure what my delivery team is doing. They just missed some really big dates. Can you just go in and figure out like what's going on and help us get some kind of structure in place? So like literally that is all I got in terms of a conversation with the leader of that group. And I go in and I'm just like, hey, okay, give me like who are the key players that I need to like start the conversation with and let them know that I'm coming. That's usually what I just start with. Let them know that I will be asking them some questions. So so
And
yeah, so
you look very sweet, by the way. So I don't know, but okay, continue.
thank you. That's very kind. I like to lure people into a false sense of security. Yeah, so I'll go in, and I'll just ask some questions. And like in this particular example, I could just see that there was a team that was responsible for sort of like this team was attempting to work agile, and there was someone responsible for kind of getting all the backlog in and prioritized, and that's sort of where it was stopping. And then the delivery team is not agile, they're not using the tool, and they're just kind of doing whatever they want. And so I'm right now in the process of putting together like what's the PMO going to look like what are the scales of projects, how are we going to report the work, what are our ceremonies. And so I'm just like putting together sort of like Agile 101 for them essentially. And then we're going to implement it. So we're going to have meetings, we're going to talk about it. And I would say that when you're, this is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but when you're doing something new like that, you have to figure out what your KPIs are for long term, but then you also a little bit KPI crazy, but you need to be able to measure the maturity of the process also. So if I'm putting something in, I'm not at that point maybe going to measure like how fast are we delivering something. I might start off by measuring like how complete was our sprint? How complete was the information that was being provided? And if we're hitting a good level of completeness, I know, okay, this is working, and now the data that I'm going to get is actually going to be useful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you said, all of it, because okay, so you solve really good problems, and the third one you just said, the recent one, they're very lucky to have you. I just have to say that because you're the big guns here. I would like to be in a room with you when you're having those conversations. I just want to be a fly in the wall, just because I cannot picture you being like all big guns, But
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm never raising my voice, and I'm never kind of disrespectful. Like I think it's
of
really
course.
important to keep the professionalism, but I will like I have a few people that I follow that I really like prescribe to their tactics, but I might say something along the lines of like, it seems like this isn't a priority for you.
Ooh, yeah, that's a strong one. That's a strong one. And it's true and it's clear. It doesn't seem like this is a priority for you, and that's what it is.
And
So maybe,
that and like so there's nothing, like there's nothing like that sort of overtly aggressive about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But if something like that lands for
yeah,
someone, usually there's a little bit of an emotional reaction,
yes,
and it gives us like a good dialogue to kind of work through. I'm like, oh, it is a priority. Great. Well, it's a priority for me too. Let's get it done. Great.
let's get it done. Let's get the actions on, make it a priority. So
Absolutely.
you do some really big stuff. Is okay, so I know we're almost close to the time. So I want to know if you want to talk more about something that I haven't asked you yet.
Ooh. I loved everything you said about leadership. I'm so passionate about project management. I would say the only thing I wanna sort of add on to everything that I've said is I feel like we are at a time right now where sort of traditional project management I think is a little bit outdated, a little bit stuffy. A lot of people either don't know what it is or see their project manager and run away because it's not like the most loved role in an organization. And I'm really working hard to sort of reframe the way we think about it as less so sort of traditional project management, or sometimes I like to call it like your news reporter, and just thinking a little bit more about delivery as a whole and like what does it take to really get something across the finish line and all of the aspects that are encompassed in that. And I think that goes so much beyond just traditional project management.
And you can do it at all levels of business growth. You don't have to be 600 million. You can be not even a million and still have some really good project management tools and someone helping you along the way, right?
100%, 100%. Yeah, if even, I mean, this all sounds great coming from me, but I'm working with a coach. I'm working with strategists. Like we are also all working with other people because like we've been saying all along, it's impossible to do yourself. You need to rely on other people's skills and other people's expertise
Yeah.
and just be thoughtful about it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody. If you were at dinner, and you had the opportunity to be next to someone that you really admire and you just can't wait to be next to them, and oh my God, it's a thrilling experience, who would that be and what would you ask them?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel kind of pressured to give like some sort of businessy answer, but my like true honest answer is Megan Trainor. She's a musician, artist. She's most known for like that "All About the Bass" song or whatever.
Yes.
But I really, really relate to kind of where she is in life and kind of the journey that she's on right now.
Yeah.
So I am constantly, if you ever see me working and I'm just kind of jamming out, it's probably Megan Trainor.
What would you ask her?
What would I ask her?
Yes.
Um, I would just ask her probably like, this is, I think this story relates and it's so common to a lot of what we're talking about. But this is a person that really kind of set out at a young age with no intent to build a giant business. But that's what all of these musicians are kind of thrown in and have to do is build a whole kind of business. So I would probably ask her more about like the business side of the music industry and how she views leadership in an industry that's so different than a lot of what I deal with day to day.
Yeah, I mean, the music industry is it's a hard industry to be at as a woman as well, because you basically have no rights as a musician and worse as a woman, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have like no rights. So yeah, for people to be successful, like Taylor Swift, her, to like really have that like that legacy stamp is very rare nowadays, I think. Back in the day was easier. Nowadays,
yeah,
different. Yeah.
yeah, and just selfishly, just because I'm a project management nerd, like I'd want to ask about like how in such a different industry, how do people manage the work, and how do you deal with like delivery, at such a large scale? I mean, even like putting on a concert, like
Yeah.
people just how do people just know what to do? They just know what's the hierarchy look like? I'm so fascinated by those things.
Rachel, you need to go work at the music industry.
I'm in. Let's go.
I'll come with you. I'll be working with you there at the
That
music.
sounds great. Yeah, I get shit done. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been great. I loved having you here at Scale to Exit. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation. And I will put in the show notes where people can find you, but you can tell them right now where they can find you to connect with you.
Yes, the best way to get a hold of me is actually to just find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. Shoot me a message. Yeah, Rachel Losser.
Rachel Lasser, everybody, and thank you for being here today. And thank you, Rachel. And I will see you next time. Adios, muchachos. Bye.